This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world, our planet Earth. I am Bigfoot Michigan Rob. This, of course, is Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I'm your host, BMR. Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming on in today. We have a pretty interesting show on slate for you. Joining me in Studio B is, of course, you all know, Tex Wesson from Texas Front Porch. And joining me in the underground military base somewhere located in the United States, undisclosed, by the way, Mr. Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal joins us. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube, The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Donnie Cho Says Stuff, Paranormal Paul, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, Daniel Diva, at Daniel Diva on YouTube, Tea Time with Danielle, I believe it is. Check her out. Check us all out. And of course, Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal, subscribe to his channel on YouTube. He comes in probably twice a month here on Brunch, chit chat with me and Tex. So I appreciate Brent and his due diligence with that. Few things, of course, going on with us. If this is your first time, I went through all that. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, whatever platform you view. All of our shows are in podcast format. The super chat's open, of course, a great way to support what we do around here. You can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Arr. That's right. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. What you get is this. Well, you get a picture with good old BMR with a bandana next to your name in the chat room. I'm working on membership shows just for you guys that are pirates, but it's just finding the time in the day to get that done for you. But I am working on that just for exclusively for you fabulous people out there. I also want to thank everybody for buying my books. You can find them on Amazon. Type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser. True Cryptid Encounters Book 1 and Book 2 are available. For those that bought it, thank you, and leave a review. Everything's analytics these days, much like when you give us a like on our shows or hit that little heart symbol in your right-hand corner of your computer, your handheld device. It helps promote sales. It's all analytics. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for that. And, we've been marketing the heck out of this. Just the heck out of this. Y'all know, most of you that follow the shows consistently, September 19th and 20th is the Crossing Realms Conference held at the Eagleton Civic Center in Richmond, Missouri. And I must tell you, this is one of the best lineups that's ever been assembled, I think. Our speakers alone include Josh Hurd. I really can't read this. Josh Hurd, Heather Mosier, William Lunsford, Lady Ann Celine, Ronald Murphy, Dean Bertram, Dr. Dean Bertram, Greg Ogles, Frankie and Danny from Haunted Garage, who will be providing a haunted car for us, Sir Brian Bowden, and Miguel Ramirez. And you know what? I got a little a birdie. I was talking to somebody the other night. We might add one more speaker, and that'll be it. We also have featured guests at this event. Ken Gerhard, Dana Stricker, Brent Thomas, who's in studio with us today, Ryan Edwards, Mike Familiant, Christopher Garantano, Linda Eastburn, David Glidden, and Miguel from Sasquatch Theory. So, yes, that's what we have going on, and we're going to get this party started. Thanks to everybody for coming in. Hit that like button, please. Hit that like button. I'm going to go down south to Tex really quick.
Hey,
good morning, partner.
how are you, brother?
Hey, man, I'm just living the life, living the dream. You know, it's 39 degrees here. The snow's starting to melt. And we got snow showers tomorrow. And, you know, it's typical life in Michigan.
Yeah, we had rain and thunderstorms last night. It's 66 today. So.
I envy you. 66 degrees. I'd be out barbecuing today. Although I do barbecue in the winter, but getting to my deck covered in snow, it ain't happening. You know, so I got to wait just a couple more months, I guess. I want to do me a rack. The first day I'm going to barbecue, give me a rack of ribs, I think. Maybe in March. I'll wait till March. But yeah, other than that, man, good to see you.
Don't y'all get thawed out up there?
Oh, man, I got to tell you. Well, today is kind of mild. It's going to be 45 tomorrow. And then the next day, we have snow showers and sleet. I mean, it's Michigan. Craziest state, crazy state. So we also have in a secretive underground military installation. Yeah, I don't know how this even happened. I found out last night. Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal.
Hey, brother. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
Well, from what I understand, he dug that place out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Around that portal that you see behind him.
Yeah, see that?
I tunneled into it. But it's a common misconception that I'm in a deep underground military base. In fact, I'm in the witness protection program because every day I look in the mirror and get to look at all this sexiness.
Oh boy, you know.
How's that?
Just great. It reminds me of our great friend Jason McLean, one of the sexiest creatures on the planet. Would always say how sexy he was, and we all love Jason, one of the sexiest guys. In fact, back in '89, he was voted sexiest man alive, I do believe. I know Jason's not watching. He does not. He loves us. He supports us. We're great friends. He don't watch any of our shows. Yeah, he don't. So
was he even alive in '89?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, yeah, he's younger than us, Tex, so probably.
Yeah, he's a lot younger.
Yeah, we might have a decade on him for I don't know. But anyway, thanks to everybody for coming on in. I appreciate all you guys. I got to thinking about what to do for this show. We don't have a show. I don't have a guest today, and which is fine because us three guys usually like to hang out and BS. But there's a couple things. And I said, let's touch on this. I'm going to talk about some I got a cool story later on the show about an aquatic cryptid story this guy sent to me, which I think you guys will all like. But before we get into that, so I was on Brent's show, the Paranormal Portal. Nice turnout. Thanks. I had a great time, Brent, with you.
Yeah, it was a good show.
And I know that Tex is very big into psychology. And in fact, you're with mental illness. Now, this should be based on cryptids. And Tex, you're going to be speaking somewhere talking about the subject, I do believe. So hats off to you, man.
Thanks, man. I'm excited about it.
For landing that gig.
Oh, we lost Rob. There he is.
Did you lose me? Oh, you lost me for a minute. Wow. Okay. Sorry about that. But so I decided to put this together. In fact, Tex, I think maybe a month ago, you talked to a similar topic. So this will be a little bit different. And I got this. I don't do the last story I shared with Brent was, of course, he asked me about my encounter. And of course, you all know the story. And it got me to thinking this morning. And I'm glad I did that. I hadn't done that in a while. And it just brings up, for me personally, it recharges me. It's therapy, as I said last night, Brent. And so it got me to thinking. And one of the main reasons that we all formulated our channels was to help people know where to go, this, that, and the other. You guys have heard me talk about this on a monthly basis, as well as Tex and everybody else, the girls, everybody. So it got me to thinking to start the show. And I titled this Life After Bigfoot and Paranormal Experiences. Then, of course, the aquatic cryptid for later. But it got me to thinking, how many people, what do you think? Let's say, for example, and I'm kind of going to steer this not toward the researcher or the investigator that's out actively looking for cryptids. They're actively looking for ghosts, this, that, and the other. But the family, the hunter, the couple on a date, and they all of a sudden, and they could care less about the paranormal, the Bigfoot, whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're out camping, whether in a tent, an RV, whatever, in a cabin in the woods. And all of a sudden they come across, let's say, for example, a Bigfoot, 8 foot, 9 foot tall, 1,200 pounds. Something's not supposed to exist. Something you can't process when you see it, much like I didn't process mine. And it doesn't have to be a terrible encounter. It doesn't have to be that they ripped apart their camp. It took the women and ran off into the woods. It does not have to be that traumatic, but just to see something for the first time, I have to believe that these people suffer something, whether it's PTSD, maybe they don't go back in the woods again because they're seeing something that they don't trust and can't understand. So I guess to start out the show, I just kind of want your takes on that around the room here, because even for me, it's still hard to process, you guys. I suffered PTSD for a little bit, I think. I'm not sure. I didn't go to a doctor for it, but Brent, we'll start with you because I know Tex. I'll let Tex still wake up just a little bit more. What's your thoughts on it for these folks? What do you try to tell these people that, hey, Brent, I don't understand this. I need help. I mean, how do you put that together and try to walk them through that?
Well, I think it's always difficult for people that don't have that experience themselves to truly be able to relate. But I would tell people, look, you got an opportunity to see something that's maybe most people, well, obviously most people in their lifetimes will never witness, including a lot of people that are trying to see it. And so the big takeaway for me is always, I think people are reflecting on these things very, very fearfully because they're being presented with something that's impossible, quote unquote. And it's hard to process that. And a lot of people think, was it trying to eat me? Was it trying to hurt me? But the just by virtue of people seeing it and then being able to come forward and say, hey, I saw this, I think really is a testament to the fact that for whatever reason these things present themselves, I don't think it's almost never an aggressive, harm intended act. I mean, because physiologically, they are so far out of our range of physicality. They are much, much faster. They are much, much stronger. They have much more attuned senses. If these things wanted you dead, you would be dead. And you wouldn't even have known what killed you, probably, because they just can move and they are masters of their domain in the truest sense of the word. I mean, they are literally forest ninja, and they don't need to be seen if they don't want to be, but they chose to show you something. And so just by virtue of that, I would try to encourage people to look at it as an incredible experience rather than don't ever go in the woods again because these things are out there and they're trying to eat you. Because if they wanted us dead, we'd be dead. And I think that at least helps to quantify the experience in these people's minds. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, nothing can remove the trauma except time and reflection and maybe talking it over and talking it through with other experiencers to help, kind of like as a non-alcoholic person, how could I really teach someone to not be an alcoholic, but the most powerful groups are those people that come together dealing with the same stuff. So I would encourage those people to find groups of people who have had experiences, who've had to process this. What did they do? I think we need to steer them, and maybe our communities help people find these things, find groups of people that they can relate to, that can relate to what they experienced. Because you can't go to your barber shop and say, hey, check it out, I just saw a Bigfoot and it's really screwing with my head, and everybody's going to be like, okay, time for your meds. Because a lot of people still have that reflection. But if that same person went into a group of people that have had experiences and say, hey, this is what I saw, and people can say, yeah, that's like what I saw, and this is what I did, and this is how I helped to work through it, and that can be really constructive. And so I think, you're not dead because they didn't want you dead. It could have killed you, but you didn't. So you were very fortunate. B, find a group of people that you can talk to about this, that have understanding of your experience, and process it. Because I think a lot of people just bury this stuff for decades, and it sits there festering in them. And it's so cathartic to just talk, so to find people, places where they can talk. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree with your take on that. And Tex, I'll throw it over at you, and I'll ask Tex too. What about those people? We all were good friends with Kerry Arnold. His encounter was kind of scary in a way. You have to watch if you've seen it or not or heard it. But the man was an avid hunter for over 20 years, and what he saw, he didn't go back in the woods. He gave up his love of hunting for how long was it, Tex? A long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah.
And it's almost like that's really something that pulls at you. And I believe, Brent, what you said, focus groups, get a group of people and talk it out, much like you're talking about maybe an alcoholics class or whatever, how they have the group sessions for people in AA, I guess. And it's kind of, I think it's a great idea to get together and have these groups. You're not going to find a cryptid group here where everyone gets together. Hi, I'm an anonymous cryptid person, but Tex, what do you think on that, and how do you think? What do you suggest for people?
Well, it's like we always, it's all of us. We have these platforms that we try to give people, as and I know this term gets beat to death around this time of, this time and day. I mean, these day and times, or whatever I'm trying to say, but a safe space, and but it's true, because you can't just talk to anybody about it. And these a lot of times, like y'all were saying, these experiences, these encounters are very traumatic for people. And if you can't go someplace and not be told you're crazy or you're lying or you're misidentifying something, it's hard, because you have to process this. It's no different than any other traumatic event in your life. You have to process. You have to go through a process. It's almost like going through grieving process. It's much like that, because there's several stages. Because you question yourself after these events happen. I know I did. I still do about some events that I've had happen, and I'm still, as much as I've come to terms with other things that have happened and that I've encountered, and I can just like, okay, well, that's almost an everyday thing now. I mean, not an everyday thing, but it's something that I don't have to process anymore when I have an encounter with these cryptids or paranormal. I don't have an issue with, but my time loss incident, I'm still processing that.
Yeah.
So you need to find a group of people that have had, not the same experience, because you're every experience is different. But it's like y'all were saying, and to y'all's point, that you need to find a group that you can sit down and talk to without being laughed at, and that will understand what you're going through. And I think that's very cathartic. It helps, and there's groups out there or channels out there like us, and we're not counselors by any stretch of the imagination.
No, we're not. No, we're not doctors, psychiatrists,
No.
psychologists.
But we're not going to point and laugh at you either, even if you've had experiences that are different than ours. And I think that's one of the most important things is, and we say it all the time, just because I didn't have the same experience you did doesn't mean it didn't happen. Right.
Right.
So, even if you got different points of view on it, if you're intelligent enough, I think, and you have to be open-minded enough to have a conversation with somebody that has a completely different view on this stuff. It's like, take me and Breezy, for instance, the whole flat earth thing. He has a totally different view than I do, but we can sit down and have a great conversation about it. I'm not comparing that to a traumatic event, but I'm just using that as an example. But it's hard to open up about stuff when you have these experiences. It really is. And then when you do open up, you get, berated for it. Well, hell no. And then you talk about it affecting people where they won't go out in the woods anymore. Well, my first encounter affected me that way for about a year. And then you got Carrie Arnold's, and but I've always said it breaks my heart when somebody says, I'm never going back out in the woods again. Man, you were around these things all your life. I guarantee you, if you were going out in the woods or,
Oh yeah.
And it's like you said, Rob, they're not evil critters waiting behind every tree to just snatch up and kill you.
Right. No, they're not. In fact,
can they be scary? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just can't process something that they've never. Okay, I'll throw this out, make it kind of simpler. And it's maybe not necessarily for Tex or Brent, but just in general. Let's say that you're camping in the woods and we all know what a grizzly bear is, depending where you live. Let's say that you're in camp and a big old grizzly bear came prancing through your camp and you're out, you see it, you're not in your tent. It sees you see it. It stands up on its legs, kind of wobbles, and you see that. Now you're terrified because you're scared of the grizzly bear. You don't know what's going to happen. And if you take that snapshot, and then if you flipped it, and let's say you're again sitting around your campfire, then all of a sudden there's an 8 or 9 foot humongous Bigfoot that emerges from the woods. Something you do not even believe in. You're something that you never even gave two thoughts about, other than the Jack Link's commercial, and it's standing there, looks at you. Mike, I posed the question in those two scenarios, and both are not threatening. The grizzly bear just kind of showed at you, you're scared, and he, for whatever the reason, left you alone. And the big, humongous Bigfoot, which is not supposed to exist, same scenario. What do you think the average person's height of being scared would be? More with the grizzly or the Bigfoot?
I think it's for sure the Bigfoot, because this, for most people, is an unknown. It's just like something walking right out of your nightmare. You can't even like put it in a category. If you're not, even if you are a believer in the fact that it's out there, I think it's a whole different thing from having a belief in something and having it step out from behind a tree. You know, I mean, my God, I can't imagine that experience and how absolutely petrifying that would be, because it's completely foreign to us. A bear, I think if you're in the woods, you probably at least have some basic idea. Like, you know, you go,
Yeah.
oh bear, you know, put up your hands, make yourself big. There's guidelines that most people know about how to at least mitigate that a little bit. But when you're talking about a 10-foot tall Bigfoot, you know, that's, you know, 1,600 pounds maybe, and it's stepping out and it's looking pissed. I mean, that's a whole different kind of fear in my mind.
No, well, for me it is.
Yeah.
Tex, what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if we're talking grizzlies, you're looking at something, huh?
No, that's why I purposely said grizzly.
I mean, I don't know, because it's hard for me to look at it objectively, because I've ran into one and not the other, and it's weird because I've ran into Bigfoot, not a grizzly. You know,
right.
So for me, I'm going to be more scared of the grizzly. You know, because I know a grizzly will eat me. You know, so it's hard for me to objectively say what it is, which would be more scarier. For me, it's going to be a grizzly. Oh, pardon me. For me, it's going to be a grizzly, because roughly, I mean, a big grizzly and a big Bigfoot, basically the same size.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. For what it's worth, I knew you'd be definitely more afraid of the grizzly.
I don't know. I think the only element, like Brent said, the only element I think would be the determining factor would be that, you know, if you've never seen a Bigfoot and you didn't think they existed, that's a whole new level to it, you know. But yeah, for me, it's definitely a grizzly. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just
Yeah, well, you know, I've thought about this today before the show, because I knew I was going to kind of ask you guys that. And I was like, again, what I saw, I couldn't process it. I was on a boat, so I wasn't really scared until I got blasted with that infrasound, and a girlfriend fell in the water, and then it turned weird looking. I mean, it was weird to begin with. I've seen a black bear from a distance in the woods, and I'm talking like 100 yards away.
right.
And we were all just very quiet. Says, I hope he doesn't, we're like putting out the campfire. We had food going. We're like, oh my gosh. And we were all very nervous and scared. And my adrenaline was going. And I think if I was to face a grizzly bear or a Bigfoot, I don't know that I have, I don't know that I give an honest opinion, which I'd want to see again. I'll put it to you this way. I wouldn't mind seeing another Bigfoot under different circumstances. Don't think I'd want to see a grizzly, though. I know, because all you have to do is go on YouTube and type in grizzly attacks, and let me tell you, you turn it off immediately. It's too gruesome. And how many times have we heard a Bigfoot actually attack and do harm to a person? Very rare. You know, we all heard about the LBL and the dog man alleged. Now that I would not. I tell you what, I think I'd rather see a grizzly over a dog man. Tex, you're different because yours wasn't threatening, but it scared the crap out of you.
Yes, I would, and I've seen Bigfoot a few times now. I want to see another dog man.
Yeah.
But honestly, just for validation purposes. And I may have. I may have, but I think seeing something that you see that may be that you can't really distinguish what it may have been, and seeing something that you know is there, I mean, you can very easily identify, is a different experience. Because I mean, when I was out at Dogman Ranch and I'm walking by myself, and I'm there's something there in the woods that I'm looking at with my camera, right? And it's hard to see on the camera, but with my naked eye, I could see the damn ears. I'm just saying, and I didn't have that fear at all. I was like, okay. I guess because I know that, hell, I've been around these creatures, and they're not evil critters waiting to pick me up and eat me either. Does it happen? Yeah. Well, people eat people. I mean, so I think I'm more scared of I'd be more scared of a serial killer or something like that.
No, I tell you what, I think I'd be very scared of a human being in the forest and I'm all alone and they're traversing about my campsite at night. I would be definitely scared of that. I think over anything of the woods is a human. It's sad to say, though. 86 brings up a good point, or a good comment or question. He says, if you studied Bigfoot and you believed in Bigfoot and you've seen one, would you be less scared? I think that if you were a researcher out in the woods and that was your main goal, probably not. But I think still, even if you've never seen one, it's just so hard to process, like we all been saying. It's just something hard to process.
Yeah.
That's the thing, And hey, Brent, let me ask you, would you rather see, I know why I don't think you've ever seen a dog man. Would you rather see the dog man or the grizzly bear? In your camp, staring you down. What you think or believe in dogman? I don't know if you do or don't, to be honest, but
I do. I definitely think people are seeing something that we call a dogman. I don't pretend to know its etymology or whatever, but I think honestly probably the dogman, because either way it's kind of a wash, honestly, because if it's coming into your camp, it's obviously coming for you. It might just be for a dog man, though. It might just be, hey, I want you to see me, or I just want to harass you. But for a grizzly, it's coming because it wants to eat, and it wants to eat something.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably defer toward the more intelligent animal, which I believe is a dog man, because it might just be coming to harass me, and it's probably trying to push me out or move me out. But there's a lot of people that see them and never get attacked. They get intimidated. Yeah. But there are so rare accounts of dogman attacking people. But grizzly, on the other hand, it's not quite as rare.
I think I've kind of listening to both of you guys, and I'm kind of thinking in my head compared to what I saw, and I was from the shore. But the only reason I'm bitter about, let's face it, about Sasquatch or the Bigfoot is because of what happened later.
Sure.
Because I really wasn't scared. If I wouldn't have got blasted with an infrasound or whatever it was, and everything was peachy keen, I'd have loved it, and I'd be gung ho to see another one. Now, if I'm reflecting back, I think Brent and Tex, I don't think I'd want to see a grizzly in my camp. I'll take my chances with the Bigfoot, because I think that would scare the bejesus out of me. Even though I know they exist, but I know Bigfoot exists now. So answering 86's question, yeah, I think I'd be less scared of seeing a Bigfoot again, I think. But I don't know. I haven't seen another one.
Well, and the thing about it is, let's face it, from what we know, bears kill more people than Bigfoot.
Yeah.
There's a reason that these things happen and they get blamed on a bear. Well, that's not out of the realm of possibility at all, and they don't have to have a reason. They just walk in, stick their head in your tent, and just pull you out and eat you.
Oh yeah.
I
tell you what, watching some of these grizzly or bear attacks on YouTube makes I don't watch them because that would keep me out of the woods if I watched enough of them.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you straight up, it would, because that's. And by the way, good point, because more people driving their car, unfortunately, lose their lives.
Well,
Bigfoot.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. You'll drive through downtown Detroit and not think twice about it.
Right.
But you're hesitant to go out in the woods because of something like this.
Yeah.
Being a grizzly, being a cryptid, whatever,
Yeah.
And you're more apt to lose your life driving downtown Detroit than you are going out camping and running into a grizzly.
Man, when I'm driving downtown Detroit, I'm looking for people with rifles on the overhead passes, taking pot shots at you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And that's true story. Certain sections of town, you don't want to go. There's parts of Detroit that the police do not enter.
Really?
Yes.
That's disconcerting as hell. Jesus.
Yeah. Now Detroit's a big city. I'm not really talking downtown, but the outlying lands that surround downtown. Because downtown is beautiful. I'm comfortable downtown. But if you take a wrong turn off the freeway, you guys, and it's not just Detroit, it's every city has.
Rob laggy today.
Is it laggy? No, I don't know. I don't see.
I think it's on your side, Brent, because he's fine over here.
Is he? Okay. Well, then it probably is on my side.
But anyway, going back to that, yeah, I mean, Detroit, any major city, St. Louis, Detroit, probably Dallas, wherever.
Oh, yeah.
They're your neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
But there's a place in Detroit called Little Saigon, and there's one way in and one way out. And if you are a person that does not know your way around and you get in there, bad things will happen to you. And I don't want to get on that subject, but it's just the way it is. The police don't go in there. They don't take 911 calls from there. They don't go in because they will get shot. It's terrible. It's like a little war zone, and it's a terrible crime area. Look it up one day on the internet. Little Saigon, Inkster, Michigan, and there's another big Saigon in Detroit. Terrible. Keith knows what I'm talking about if he's still in chat.
See, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not. Yeah. So it's crazy, and the Inkster is growing as a murder capital where I live, and I can tell you what, I get the Inkster in like 15 minutes. That's crazy to where I live. I mean, access to all these places very quickly off the freeway.
Yeah. See. That's where that's don't worry about Bigfoot, folks.
Yeah, no, again, it's kind of stirring that way, isn't it? And you guys, while we're on the topic, Brent, when I was on your show last night, I couldn't really read chat, and I wanted to everybody keep prayers in those people, that tragedy that happened the other night, the airliner and the helicopter that smashed into each other.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah, man, 67 people, man.
Where was that?
It was last night in
Washington D.C., right?
Washington D.C.
Oh yeah, so I hadn't heard about it.
Right over the Potomac River. A black. What do you call that helicopter?
Black Hawk.
Black Hawk smacked into a commercial. Commercial airliner, or was it residential? I forget. Domestic or commercial? I forget. But anyway, 67 people, including the soldiers.
How did that even happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're looking into it. But what I heard was one version I heard apparently that was reported was that the Black Hawk was on military exercises and obviously, I guess, ended up in the path of the commercial flights.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure.
Yeah. More is going to come out on that one, radar and I mean, whatever. So I'm not going to speculate on anything. It's just the reports have been flooding the internet all day long. I haven't really read them myself.
Yeah. Nor have I. Yeah. I usually get most of my news from clips on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, though, I did see something that really was disturbing is they showed a video on the local news of the plane and the helicopter colliding, exploding
Oh, yeah.
right over the Potomac River.
Just like that. Boom.
Gone.
For all those people there and their loved ones, their life changed. Boom. Life is beautiful, but tragically fragile. Not that this is the forum for that, but
No, it's not. I had to bring that up because it was just like, we tend to go all over. We just kind of flip subjects quickly, but something to bring up. And I just want to give my condolences because I don't know, maybe somebody watching this maybe they had a loved one. So I'm sorry for that,
Wow.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaker.
That's tragic, man.
But
that's tragic. I'm reading about it right now. It's like, oh my gosh.
But on the lighter side of things, I think if you guys have any more comments on this little subject, I just thought it was brought up. Brent, we've talked about it last night, and it got me to thinking that here's the thing. We do this because I walked alone for many years, or not many, a year and a half, nowhere to go. And Tex, great point. Brent, great point. That's why there's groups like this for people, whether they want to be anonymous or come on a show. This place, Brent's place, Tex's place, the Blondes, safe place to go and talk to us. Our email is out there. We always answer them, and we help people because, again, it was terrible what I went through. And in the beginning, I thought everybody was just making fun of me, So I like to bring that up every several months just to reiterate to everybody that you're in a safe place here. We're here to help and not condone or criticize you. And so,
and I think that's an important thing that people keep in mind, that sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger than it is somebody about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, as strange as that sounds, but it's true.
You don't have the reservations that you would with a family member or your best bet.
Yeah.
Like my best friend don't believe I saw Bigfoot to this day. Well, whatever. Yet I'm supposed to believe he saw a ghost.
Yeah. I think that's probably in especially in the cases of the cryptids, though. It's probably because probably very few peer groups include more than one person that's seen something like that. They're just not extraordinarily common. But if it was ghost stories, I think most people can relate to having something weird happen. But when you're talking about the cryptids, it's like, man, I don't know I wonder what the statistics are. And there's no way to really know because we don't know how many stories are out there that we've never heard. But just based on the ones we've heard, it's like 1 in X number of people may have an encounter. I wonder what that would be just from the known reports.
I was thinking the same things. I was going to say that most people, again, I don't have numbers, but I think that many people have had an encounter with the spirit or the paranormal or a ghost, or many people, millions of people have allegedly seen a UFO, whether that was from another world or our government, who knows, right? More people have seen that phenomena than a Bigfoot or a cryptid, I have to believe. I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that's pretty accurate. You have paranormal channels with 1 million subscribers talking paranormal stuff and ghost stuff, right? Not you don't find a million people watching a cryptid show, that I'm aware of.
True. Not that I'm aware of either. Now that you mentioned it, I was just running through a list in my head, and it's like, there's plenty of big, ghost type channels. There's plenty of big UFO type of channels.
Yeah.
But the cryptids are still, I don't know, they're still emerging, I guess, as a topic.
Yeah. It really is. You guys carry on for a minute because I do something right quick, like I typically have to do. You guys know what I'm talking about, and then I'll be back and maybe change it up a little bit because I do have a cool aquatic cryptid account that I like to Brent to hear a little bit before he has to go here in a few minutes. So I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'll be back in 2 seconds. You guys just carry on really quickly. Thanks everybody for coming on in. Hit that like button. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
And I don't have to go right at the at the hour mark. It's just soon after, and it's possible I can write out most of this, but I do have an interview for my podcast coming up at noon. So,
well, I've got a hard stop at 1:30. So,
oh, okay, perfect. 1:30. That's
but
12.
you know, it's weird that, you know, to Rod's point, where he was talking about his best friend, you know, you're chastised even by somebody that's seen something else that's supernatural, paranormal, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, because I had the same predicament. I had a former friend of mine, unfortunately, but a former friend of mine that had a UFO sighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I that was supposed to be perfectly normal, and I was supposed to believe him, but he couldn't get on board with what I saw.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
That's a funny phenomenon though, and that's one that really kind of makes me wonder. It's like how, because I mean, by virtue of believing in any of this stuff, largely
Right.
it's considered, you know, the fringe of possibility, if not impossible, by most people. But there's segments of people that are all on board with there being, you know, a 12-foot tall primate like hominid running through the wilds of America, but they just can't wrap their head around there being perhaps spirits of formerly living people or some kind of spiritual energies around, or they can believe in that, but none of the other, or UFOs are coming from, you know, hundreds or billions of light years away to visit us. And that seems plausible to them. And it's funny because I always wonder, it's like, if you believe in any one of these things, then you have to acknowledge if that's possible, then maybe this other stuff is too. I mean, how can you
would think, yeah,
draw a hard line in the sand? Like, well, I'm a Bigfoot believer, but I ain't got no time for that ghost stuff or that UFO stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, and Keith brings up a great point, and I've actually, with this same guy I'm talking about, and another guy, and several others actually, that think that, you know, when I start talking about the whole Bigfoot Dogman thing, they think it's hogwash, you know. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come out there where I go, and, you know, spend some time, you know, spend a few days out in the woods with me. Oh no. Oh no. Well, why not? Well, I just not gonna. Well, yeah, that's what I thought. You know, so it's weird, but these people don't believe these things exist.
Yeah,
but they won't go out where they're supposed to be knowingly, because honestly, I think in the back of their head, in the back of their mind, that they're going, okay, well, this is possible. You know, if nothing else, this is possible.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. It's like they don't want to make room for it in their belief system. Yeah.
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 My wife's that way, because, you know, she's like, well, I don't want to know if that's real.
Yeah.
You know? She doesn't tell, and she supports me in this kind of stuff, in this topic. And I mean, you know, she's the one that bought me the calendar and, you know, the cup and a lot of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And but she's like, no, I don't need to go out there where these things are supposed to be, because, you know, she won't even, I can't even drive down the main road to Brown Springs with her.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, it's a funny paradigm, because, and I think it's because once they know, they can't unknow. But if they don't know, they can just, I don't believe in that, and discard it. But once they know, they're always going to know from then on, and it changes the world around you, you know,
shatters your reality.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift.
Yep. A paradigm shift for sure for most folks, especially
I'll tell
if
you,
you're
honestly, what scares me more than anything is what Rob's fixing to talk about.
Yeah, this is thanks for that. This is really crazy. Aquatic cryptids. I got this email from this guy.
Well, see, but the thing about it is, water is my woods when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I don't know that I would ever go back. And I've ran in these big catfish and all this kind of stuff. I've had, almost very easily could have been fatal accidents underwater diving, right? But I got to tell you, folks, if I ran into something like whatever he's fixing to talk about, I don't know that I'd ever get in the damn water again.
Mm.
And I've been diving since I was 14 years old.
Yes, right. That's
And
right.
I absolutely love it. And if I could breathe underwater, I would be happy to move there. Okay, I'm just saying. But if I ran into an aquatic critter like this, I don't know that I'd ever get back in the damn water.
Well, you probably won't with this. And I will tell you this, I've said this before. I love the Great Lakes, been on them many times, the inland lakes. But now as I've gotten a little bit older and did a little more research into things that there are things in the oceans, the Great Lakes that are not people haven't seen yet. And they don't show themselves as readily as maybe a Bigfoot. I don't know that. It's still a fascinating subject. But this email I got from this guy, he goes, hey, Rob, man, I don't really know where to begin with this experience that he had. He goes, he's back in 1985. He was camping with his friend Jeremiah, and they were in
the 80s. The damn 80s.
Well, 95, yeah.
Oh, it was 95.
Did I say 85? I'm sorry, 95, it says here. So he says
weird shit happened in the 80s. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, I grew up in the 80s, man. It was brain cells.
Sorry, Rob.
No, you're fine. And but anyway, they're camping. It's early fall, and they're out in Lake Champlain, the Lake Champlain Valley, though, between the Green Mountains of Vermont, not like Lake Champlain. I think in Illinois. I think it is Chicago. There's the Lake Champlain Valley between the Green Mountains of Vermont and the Adirondacks in New York.
I keep interrupting you now. I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about Champ here, are we?
No, this is not Champ at all.
Okay.
This is something. Okay. And this place also extends into Quebec. So, and it's off of like in Quebec, I think there's a river called the Richelieu River and the Lawrence River. But anyway, it's a big waterway. It's huge. And the lake itself has many other tributaries, as I just said. And the water through here helps provide for 250,000 people in Vermont for their drinking water. So a tremendous water source, very, very expansive. He goes on to tell me, you might have told me about the infamous Bennington Triangle that also encompasses part of this territory. So we've got all these different Canada's involved, the United States involved, so a very expansive part of the geography here. There had been a lot of many missing persons reports here that surfaced in the early 1800s to the mid 1940s. And a lot of these are all unsolved mysteries, missing persons reports. There was a report in the early 1900s about a caravan of folks in a stagecoach that they were accosted by a 9-foot monster that ripped the stagecoach to pieces and set all the passengers into a frenzy. So this encounter's right around this area that we're about to talk about. He goes on to tell me his encounter revolves around a hideous beast that he and Jeremiah had seen, and they were confronted with this on the St. Lawrence River outside of Quebec. He goes on to say, hey, Ma, he goes, Rob, for this email, just call me Vincent. Early fall 1995, Jeremiah and himself, they went for a weeks-long fishing trip in the valley along the Richelieu St. Lawrence rivers. They had been fishing at this spot for about 7 years, where the tributaries brought in all these beautiful fish: northern pike, long-nosed garpike, bowfish, smallmouth bass. It had everything in here. It's just everything. They always travel lightly, he says. They brought a sizable tent along with them and the typical amenities, this, that, and the other. So, anyway, as it goes on, they want to live off the land and rough it. So these guys are outdoorsmen. They like to rough it. So they go on to say, as the story now unfolds, after that background, 2 or 3 days of fishing, they caught nothing. Nothing. It was just a boring, no fish were biting. And right around the 4th day is when their trip, they said, turned really bizarre, and it got really frightening. Their fishing boat was an aluminum 8-foot boat with a smaller 150 horsepower engine that motored it. They're drifting along the river, and the waves swelled around their boat. So they're out on this river, lake, tributary, and there's these unusual currents that start swelling around the boat. And there was an unusual knocking about the helm, and it went rampant, all about just this knocking underneath their vessel. And they're like, what are they? Are they hitting rocks or anything? Where are they at? And the guy goes on to say it was literally knocking like you would knock on a door, but it's on the aluminum of the boat. So they immediately find out they weren't adrift on rocks or anything. And the one friend on the boat said the knocking on the boat was almost like a cadence, some sort of cadence of some sort. Both of these guys, they stood up and looked around the boat out into the water, but they couldn't see anything. But the knocking still continued, and they can't see anything. The guy goes to say this went on for about 10 minutes, and then it subsided. So later in the night, they laid awake pondering what was going on here. What was the strange knocking? Now, Jeremiah made mention of the cadence of the knocking. And Jeremiah was a former military person. And he says it was almost like a form of Morse code.
Mm.
Okay, so they kind of ignored that happening, and they just kind of drifted off to sleep to prepare for the next morning to go back out fishing again. They wake up. Surrounding their campsite now, you guys, there's footprints. They're bare human footprints parading all about the site around their camp off of the river. He goes on to say the average size are like 9 or 10 inches, these footprints. And they, again, it traversed all about the campsite, all over the place. And they're thinking, man, is this a Bigfoot? What's going on with this? Okay. But then he goes on to say later on in the story that what made it particularly odd, the human-like footprints started to lead toward the river. And then as it got closer to the river, everybody, the toes seemed to expand. And it almost took on a webbed foot-like impression in the ground. And then he goes on to say maybe something like a huge, oversized frog. I mean, he's just trying to put 2 and 2 together. What can this be? And so it bothers these guys, and they're like, wow, this is crazy. Something in our campsite, all these prints, then all of a sudden they develop a webbing toward them as it gets closer to the water. So they stand around, they're studying, they're looking at the tracks, and they try to explain it away as, wow, just some strange anomaly. So they went back to the river, and they had a great day. They're back on the same river, the same area, and they're fishing. This time they're having a lot of luck to catching a lot of fish of that. Then all of a sudden, right before they were ready to head back, they had their fill of fish. They're ready to head back. Then all of a sudden, that weird swirling of waves once again was strewn around the boat on the river. The creepy knocking on their boat now comes up about again. That cadence knocking. Jeremiah, being the military man and knowing Morse code, he pulls out a pen and a paper, literally, that he had on him by chance. I don't know who carries a pen and paper. I don't know, but according to this man, and he started jotting down and trying to decipher this cadence. And the Morse code, and from his military background, he says, "Man, I think this is some sort of Morse code." So he's taking his notes, and again, they're looking around the boat, and they don't find anything. So after about 10 minutes, knocking stops, everything subsides. They headed to shore to decipher Jeremiah's notes. So during this time, the cadence, he's taking the notes. He really wants to get back to camp and decipher what's going on here. They pulled the boat ashore, and they went to camp. They sat down together, and they're trying to decipher this code. Then the haunting thing, the crazy thing about this, and this man, Jeremiah, who's vast with deciphering these codes, finally writes out what he deemed to be the Morse code, the knocking on the boat. And it says, now remember the Bennington Forest that's allegedly haunted and cursed. There's the Bennington Triangle, you guys, all sorts of high strangeness there, from paranormal to ghosts to Bigfoot, like that monster story I said a little bit early. And he deciphers this. He can't believe what he's reading as he puts it together, and it says, "Please help me. I'm cursed. I was in your camp." Something to that effect. So the Morse code was deciphered back that the prince that they found was this creature or whatever it was. That was this being. Then he goes on to say that the rest of the code is undecipherable. He gets this ominous feeling, and these guys are kind of like terrified now. Where are they at? Are they in a cursed area? Is this waterland curse? They packed up their gear and they go home. The two of these guys now go online. They start researching online, and they came up empty, nothing. They came up with absolutely nothing, except for back in the turn of the late century of the 16th century, Iroquois indigenous people allegedly cursed the white man for stealing their fish along this particular area where they camped and fished. He speculates that it's folklore. He thought that maybe those folklore are just, he didn't believe much in folklore, like made up stories. But he does know for a fact he found the prince, deciphered the Morse code, and he wondered, was this an actual human being? Was this a cursed human trapped in the waters? He was just pondering this. And he says, "Rob, any suggestions?" And I'm like, "No, I'm at a loss for you, dude. I don't know what that is." But when I look back, because I did a story on the Bennington Triangle back when I worked for this other guy, and the Bennington Triangle is high strangeness, aquatic cryptids, Bigfoot cryptids, missing people, you name it, it's there. It is haunted, cursed land. So I guess the question is, what do you think about that? Do you think that I can't make heads or tails of this story? And again, I get the stories that we just discussed earlier. I'm not going to judge anybody. But I think a lot of it kind of makes sense if you do a deep dive on the Bennington Triangle and its location. Never seen a creature. Saw the prints, the web feet, did the research, cursed land about the white man stealing the fish, and they cursed it. So my question is, what can you make heads or tails of this?
Are you asking me first? I'm sorry.
Whoever wants to go.
Whoever
wants.
What I was trying to just Google, and for some reason, Rob, only my connection to you lags out.
Really?
Tex isn't experiencing that though, but it's only from me to you because Tex still remains moving and stuff. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Something kind of glitchy. But what I was curious about. Okay, this is a curse allegedly from the 1600s.
Okay.
But is this an ongoing curse where anybody can be cursed, or was there somebody cursed back then? Because I was trying to look up quick, when was Morse code invented?
Okay.
Because maybe it was from the old times. I don't know, but I was curious about that because, and would English have been the standard language then that they could tap out? Or I guess it was cursing. They were cursing, the Iroquois were cursing the white people, as you said. So, yeah, I mean, they could have been English speaking white people, but I don't know. That's what's curious for me. It's a tough it's a tough story to wrap your head around. Now, again, I really believe anything's possible, but it doesn't mean that I suspend, all critical thinking, So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, sounds like quite a yarn. And certainly I believe in aquatic cryptids. There's mermen and variations all over the world that have been reported. So I mean, it's not a new phenomenon, but could it be some person that was against their will transformed and they still retain their identity and stuff, but they are, now in this in between form? Because it sounded like it kind of morphed from its footsteps going around. They were human footsteps until it got towards the water, and then they became these, these
Right.
frog like or flipper like, frog fin kind of feet. So that's a curiosity. Again, I don't know. I think there are skinwalkers, so perhaps it's some variation on that.
And that's a great point with the Morse code. And again, that's the information that I got, and I present. I don't change the narrative of the stories that I get. And I'm thinking with that, what you brought up, Brent, perhaps speculation that this was a person that was cursed, but maybe not in the 16 or 1800s, but perhaps in present day or more in our century, right? In our current date, that was involved with the military. I'm not sure either.
The Bennington Triangle is a phrase coined by American author Joseph A. Citro to denote an area between the southwestern Vermont, which within a number of people went missing between 1945 and 1950.
Okay.
So yeah.
So Morse code was, I believe, available during that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's where the Bennington Triangle gets its name from and why. So
I found out information on Samuel. The Morse code was invented by Samuel Finley Breese Morse, and it was his life was from 1791 to 1872. So, yeah, I mean, it is quite an old idea. Then I just wasn't sure. It was like, God, is this like something of the 20th century or earlier? So,
right
now there was a battle in Bennington. 1777, August 16th, 1777, where it was of course, this is the American, the Revolutionary War. There was 30 American killed and 40 wounded, and there was 207 British killed and 700 prisoners. So,
and I if I may just respond to Sunny, and I put it up on screen. It said, Brent, maybe seamen have their own sea language. It's not called Morse code back in those days. Yeah, but this person in this inland lake would have had to have known some others code, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's not impossible. Again, I'm not saying I'm absolutely think this is bunk.
Yeah, no, I throw them out there for us as kind of,
right.
I think we're just trying to put the timeline together, if nothing else,
yeah.
is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kicking the can with that one. Very interesting. But I do believe in aquatic cryptids. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you call
if you believe in land-based cryptids? I think if you believe in any cryptid, it's like we were saying a while ago.
Yeah.
You have to be at least willing to entertain the idea of the existence of anything that people run into.
Right. Yep. I agree. It's a cool story, though. I mean, it's not one I've ever heard anything like it before.
And like you said, I think a couple of things you brought up, Brent, the shape-shifting aspect. What I was thinking was, I always have a hard time putting the physical with the spirit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out the tapping, the knocking and that cadence on the boat. An apparition, an entity can't do that. Unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, they can. Their knocking is real common.
I didn't know. So there is a knocking from an entity's spirit type. Okay, I wasn't sure of that. So I don't know.
This is definitely one. This is definitely a different one.
I know it's perplexing.
It is. It is. But why do we? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what this would be. What kind of curse this would be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into this one because this one's got me.
Like I said, I wish I still had it. I did a Bennington research project paper, and there's a lot of. It's just like the Bennington. They call it the Bennington Triangle, and of course, everything that has high strange seems like it's coined a triangle nowadays, right? So
Yeah.
But there was a lot of weird stuff around there, and in fact, a lot of missing people, even into the 1990s, 19 to 2000s. Very weird. Very weird. The Green. Also, look up if you do some research. The Green Mountains of Vermont also claims to be quote unquote the cursed land, but I can never figure this out. Like Brent, I was telling you last night, there's allegedly cursed land in the Manistee National Forest. How do we really know what is cursed land? Do we really know where that comes from? Does the First Nations tribal folks curse the land? Are they shaman? I mean, what are they? Tex and Rob can't go and proclaim that northern Texas is cursed land on our whim, right? There's something behind these things.
Well, I mean, most of the time we default to the First Nations wisdoms on this and their histories because they've been, they've got a history long before ours, and they had lands that they would call cursed, and now there's like the Uinta Basin in Utah where Skinwalker Ranch is. There's a story about the Navajo cursing the Ute Indians and their land because they were enslaved by them. The Navajo were taken as basically slaves and treated really poorly. But there is also histories in the First Nations of lands that they considered not to approach. I don't think it's all that, it was done by people and it was cursed. I think that these are basically references in a lot of cases to energetic anomalies that exist in certain areas. Maybe it's, vortices are there, or naturally occurring phenomena where a lot of darker things are observed. And so they become these areas. There were also sacred lands that were only allowed to be entered by shaman and holy people. And so, they had an understanding of the land around them because they'd lived here for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years before we did. So they knew the land. Now we come in and we're like, well, look at that view. Let's put them all right there. And it's like, without ever looking at what was the perception of this land, where you're building those condos. I mean, that's the recipe for Poltergeist right there. The movie. And so we just don't know why or how they were cursed, or if it was just a natural forebodings. I'm here to tell you, I've walked into areas of woods where I felt dark. I felt that it was just dark, like there was just a bad energy there, and I just left. Was it a cursed land? Well, no, but if I was trying to warn other people, I'd be like, stay away from that land, it's cursed. So I think it's an easy term that everybody kind of has an understanding of, but it doesn't necessarily speak to what happened there or what's going on there. So because we just don't know, we're dealing with energies we can't possibly understand at this point. Maybe someday, but not yet.
I'm looking at some of these aquatic cryptid from folklore, and some that I've never heard of. Jenny Green Teeth.
Oh yeah.
The Rusaki, the Vodonyo Noi. It's Slavic. Basically it's a frog man. The kappa that are seen to be turtle or frog like, and that type of thing.
Even the Grindylows, like you hear in Harry Potter, those are out of folklore. Yep.
The bunny yip, boony yip,
Bunyip.
bunyip.
Yeah, that's in Australia, right?
Yeah. The tittyman.
Say that one again. No, I'm just kidding.
Tittyman. Tiddy. Tiddy.
Kitty.
And
It's
there's
cracking
one
me up.
word, and then mun is another word. I'm saying it's tittyman.
It sounds.
But-
It
I'm
sounds
such an
kind of
infant,
Jamaican.
so-
Hey, titty moon, man, titty moon, titty moon.
I
Maybe it's
haven't seen it.
I
Never mind. But this is
There's a lot to explore, isn't there, Tex? Something we should maybe investigate a little further because it is very interesting. And like I say, there's water abounds us all over.
Yeah, well, it's a great point. I think that, honestly, we've hardly touched a lot of the waterways, not only the oceanic, but inland. I mean, they've been at least mapped as far as sonar, but a lot of the ocean hasn't. You'll see it on the maps, like they show this underwater, strata, but a lot of that is just guesstimated. They haven't actually charted it officially, and I'm sure that there are things that exist all around us that we just aren't aware of. And I think if we suddenly knew, we'd be like, oh, let's just stay home, watch TV.
Yeah, and I know you have to go in a minute, Brent, but I did want to throw this out really quick. You're friends with Cindy Goodbreak, I think, and me and Tex are friends with her. We've had her on a couple times, and she always talks to me about, she had in the past. I haven't talked to her in about a year, but out in Idaho, I don't know where. Again, I don't know where this is in relation to where you live, but she claimed Hoodoo Lake or Spirit Lake.
Yep, Spirit Lake, Hoodoo
Mountain. She allegedly says that's haunted. There's a lot of high strangeness that takes place over there.
Yep, very true. And I don't think it's unique to any one given area. I think everywhere has their places. I think it's just part of the geology of our world, and it could be mineral deposits are causing these energetic fluctuations where strangeness happens. It could be any number of things that there's the ley lines, etc. We just don't know, but I think every place has some place like that where the locals it's weird, don't go there, that's a strange place.
Yeah, every state, every county, every community, there's something. There's gonna be something you can find. Just you could type in New Mexico, find something. Vermont, Florida.
if it's not a lake with like a something in it, it's a bridge. It's anything.
Oh,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. Could be just a community of houses where they just can't keep owners into them. And it's like, why is that? Well, you got to look at
Rob, look at Rob talking about Little Saigon.
Yeah. Well, that's not haunted. That's just bad news, right? But just like you, it's funny, Brent. I think that Brent, you heard the story. We just did it the other day when I talked about my brother with the haunted grounds. He bought that house in a new subdivision.
Oh yeah.
It was haunted, and they can't keep people in there now.
Right.
They give away the houses still to this day.
Sure. Yep.
So it's in every community, all around. The people like us are the people that find these things, and that's why it's not as prevalent. It's not on the news. Let's face it, we're the minority of people that are into all these subjects. So, but when we dig them up, hey, you know what? Always a possibility. There's always that what if.
Yep.
Amen.
Sure.
Gentlemen, I gotta go, but thank you so much for letting me come.
I know, Brad. We're getting close to wrapping it up. I appreciate you. I had a great time on your show. Go check out the Paranormal Portal on YouTube. And of course, the podcast platforms as well under the Paranormal Portal podcast, correct?
Amen, brother. Way to represent.
Good, Brent.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks,
Have a
Brent.
good day.
Talk to you later.
Okay, see you.
I'm about 9 minutes behind him.
9 minutes behind him. What do you mean?
So I gotta go here shortly.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I got to take Mama to the doctor once again here in about 20 minutes. So, yeah, we'll wrap her up. Any final thoughts before we go, my friend?
I'm really interested in this whole aquatic thing that the story that you told. It's fascinating. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're going to sit here and call BS on the story. We're going to dig into it.
That's right. Yeah.
It's because something sounds fantastic, and this does.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it don't have some validity to it, and it's not worth checking out.
It's worth checking out. And like you and I always say, we say this quite a bit. These people have seen something. We question what they think they perceive that they saw, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
You can think you can have an experience and tell your story back when maybe that's not really what happened at all. Not that you're lying or making it up. It's just that you perceive it different than the actual encounter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So yeah, so I thought it was interesting to bring up here in the afternoon. I mean, so why not? But that's the thing. I bet you, because we don't do enough of this, we don't really. It's another thing to dig into, the aquatic cryptids. Because I will tell you what, the ocean, the Great Lakes, scarier than the woods, because not only can a cryptid of the water maybe take you, but the water itself can take you much more readily than the woods. You can survive lost in the woods for days. You fall off a boat, your boat sinks. Unfortunately, your odds of survival aren't very good.
That's true.
But anyway.
That is true.
Thanks for everybody for coming on in. It was our typical brunch day, and me and Tex got things to do here, so we're probably cut about 3 minutes early, which is not bad at all. Tonight, check out the Blondes and Booze. They've got Marie, a very nice woman, Marie Dumont from Florida. She'll be talking about her Florida team, their expeditions. She was on with my show last year. Very nice woman. She's all over Facebook. She's a true researcher. She's always in the field. So check them out tonight at 9 in the East. And Tex, today is Tuesday, and you're back on the air when?
Today's Thursday, brother.
Oh my gosh, today's Thursday. Are you on the air Friday at all, or no? You're off until Monday?
Well, no, I got the crime show to do this weekend, and I've got
You'll be on with me probably Saturday night too, right? At 11.
Yeah, I'll be on with you Saturday night, and I'm doing Paul's show for him Saturday.
Okay,
and
so you're busy.
Then I've got my show that me and Monica do on Sunday, and then of course,
of course, the porch
week.
And all that. Busy, always a busy week. Thanks to everybody for coming on and spending your afternoon with us for a little while. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody on your way out, please hit the like button. It helps analytics. We appreciate y'all. And we've got another episode in the books here. And as I just look for the good old the mystic, the island, what do you call it? The misfits. Here's the misfits for you on your way out.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.